that it's necessary for us to begin to look at the future and know that it's possible that we can have our dream. Yes, it is. Other people have done it, then we can do it. We fail a lot of times. Well, a lot of other folks fail, and eventually they came back and they succeeded. So it's possible we can have what we want. And we know that we want to get it. It's necessary that we align ourselves with people that think like we do. It's necessary we get negative, do-nothing people out of our lives. It's necessary we never stop learning and growing and developing ourselves. It's necessary that we never give up. We know that it's you, it's me. It's being responsible for our stuff and deciding that we're going to keep on keeping on, that we're going to find a way to win or find a way to make it happen. And we know it's hard. It's not going to be a picnic. Yes, it's hard, and we will do it hard. And once we do it hard and we go through it, we realize it was worth it. And once you discover it was worth it, it is done. It's done. It's done, ladies and gentlemen, before it happens. Well, here's what I'm suggesting to you. That when you're working, you have a wall to break through. Let's say a friend of mine he runs a marathon, and he says, when he's running the 26-mile marathon, he said, let's say that hypothetically, that 18th mile is the wall. He said, Les, when you get there and you're running, he says, everything in you is telling you to stop, to give up. Every muscle is aching, and you're saying to yourself, I can't do it. I can't do it. And you just keep on and you keep on and you keep on. It seems like you're moving at slow motion. And then eventually when you break through that 18-mile wall, then you know it's like done and you're on automatic and you glide on in. And you know it's there. You know you're going to get to the finish line. And we've all had experiences where we were working on something and we knew it was possible. And we did those things that were necessary to bring it into a reality. We took the responsibility to make it happen. Other people couldn't see it. A lot of people didn't believe it. You were attacked. You were criticized. People were opposing you, but you kept on doing it. It was hard. It was rough. It was difficult. But to you, it was worth it. And eventually you got to a level you know, can nothing stop me now. I'm on the move. I'm on the move. Finally, I'm thinking about a friend of mine who is no longer operating on this dimension. His name is Jack Boland. He had this vision of a church that would serve various types of needs for people, their supportive needs and helping them in recovery from drugs and alcohol and whatever addictions that they might be involved in. And he was known for bringing in different kinds of speakers. And over a year ago, he was diagnosed as having cancer, and he announced to his congregation that he's going to be taking chemotherapy, and that it was a possibility that the cancer would go in remission, and he was optimistic about that. And sure enough, it did for a year. And one of the things Jack always talked about is that he wanted to have his funeral while he lived. And so he invited a few friends, Wayne Dyer and myself and a few other speakers. He didn't tell us why we were there, but once we gathered there, the church, they told us in the room that Jack is going to announce to the congregation, he's bringing his doctor up. The doctor is going to say that we felt we could keep it in remission. It's out of remission, and he doesn't have much time left. And whatever words you want to say to Jack that you would say if he had made his transition, speak those words now. Well, we were shocked and we were somewhat stunned until Jack got there. They brought him in a wheelchair, and boy, was he courageous, and he had a strong smile, and they helped him up the steps, and he sat behind the podium, and each of us got up and we said a few things about Jack and the impact that he made on our lives. And he said, the doctor, after announcing that Jack didn't have long, he says, doctor, he said, I accept what you say, but it's possible that does not have to be the case. But if it is, I will enjoy life to the very last breath I take, even the chemotherapy. I will enjoy that. And Jack did, ladies and gentlemen. And when they said that all of his vital organs were failing, they called his family and his close church staff to the hospital and said, he's dying. And so they came and they all gathered in the room. And Jack at that time was unconscious. And he gained consciousness, and he looked at them and he said, with what strength he had, he said, I want to thank you all for being here. You've been a great staff to me. He looked at his sons, his daughter. He said, you've been a great family. He said, don't feel sorry for me. He said, I'm ready to go. I'm looking forward to the next adventure. And he sat there for a little while, laid there, and he closed his eyes, and he lost consciousness. About an hour and a half later, he opened his eyes, and he looked at them. He said, this is embarrassing. I'm not dead yet. They were laughing through their tears. They said, Jack, you are a character. He said, hey, I hate giving up this kind of control. So they predicted that Jack would die at the end of February. And then on the 2nd, they said, he won't see the light of day. He will be dead by morning. Ladies and gentlemen, Jack died on March 4th. And we believe that even in his dying, Jack sent his congregation a message that I want to give to you with his permission. March 4th is the day he died, and we believe Jack was saying, March 4th. So I say, as you look into the future, while other people are giving up, feeling like victims, feeling powerless, becoming negative, turning on each other rather than to each other, feeling that they can't make it, be ye not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind with the mindset of that it's possible that we can save this generation. It's possible that we can create new industries, a new economy. It's possible that I can find a new profession, a new job. It's possible I can create a new life. And it's necessary that I become actively involved in becoming a positive force in my life and on the planet. And it's me, yes, it's you, it's all of us, pulling together, working together to create this brand new future. And it's going to be hard. Easy is not an option. But if it's hard, we will do it hard. Whatever is required to snatch victory from the jaws of defeat. And it's worth it, yes. It's worth whatever we have to do. And once we know that, it is done. It is done. It is done. It is done.
You are an unparalleled motivational preacher. And I use that word very intentionally. You have a way of conveying a message with such chills-inspiring, goosebump-giving power. It's really, really extraordinary to witness, and becomes all that much more powerful knowing that you didn't start there, that wasn't sort of naturally, your beginning, and you've called life a battle for territory.
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
That the things that you get in life, Frederick Douglass said, we might not get everything that we fight for, but everything we get, it will be a fight. And I love the quote that life is a fight for territory. And once you stop fighting for what you want, what you don't want will automatically take over. Like getting ready to come here to see you. I want to just, first of all, thank you for the great work that you're doing. I watch you and I study you, and you have had some incredible guests that impacted my life. And preparing to come here, I'm being treated by Cancer Centers of America for 4th stage cancer, which I've been kicking cancer's butt for 27 years. And I've been working on getting a 6-pack before getting here. I still got 1 pack. And I've been working to get some muscles so I can wear my t-shirt, but they weren't large enough, so I wore a long sleeve.
That's amazing, man. Talk to me about cancer. You've had such an upbeat attitude about it. It's really pretty extraordinary. Was that your initial reaction? Did you go through a trough of despair when you first got diagnosed? Like, how have you framed that?
Dr. Alfred Golson, who has since passed, was a very unusual guy. And he told me, he said, Mr. Brown, you have cancer. I said, can you give me a second opinion? He said, yes, and you're ugly too. I said, oh my God. So I didn't have a chance to have fear because those 3 words, you have cancer, 3 of the most feared words in 7 different languages. I saw it as a fight. And from that time to this time, my PSA was 2,400. And that stands for prostate-specific antigen, and now it's below 0 and metastasized to 7 areas of my body, which was a good thing because 7 is my lucky number. Okay, so I never was fearful that I was going to die from it, and I think that I read something by Dr. Norman Cousins. He wrote a book called The Biology of Hope, and he talked about the fact that when something happens to you, you don't deny it, you defy it. And I was defiant that I'm going to beat this, I'm going to handle this. That there are people who many times when something happens to them, that they embrace it from a place of fear and it takes them out. And L.C. Robinson said, things may happen to you and things may happen around you, but the most important things are the things that happen in you. And you have to stand up inside yourself and deal with it and handle it. So fortunately, that never bothered me, but I had sciatica pain. That had me speaking in unknown tongues. And I was in a wheelchair for several months, speaking from a wheelchair. And it was something that I dealt with that frightened me. Will this ever end? It was 24 hours. I lost a lot of sleep. It was exhausting, going from all type of specialists in and out of the country. And just one day, it stopped. And I'm glad that I'm past that. I feel like when you go through some stuff, there's some certain things that you don't want ever to see again, and that's what I don't want to ever see again. But fear has not been the biggest challenge that I've faced with the things that I've been dealing with in terms of my health.
Well, talk to me about the process that you go through mentally. So there have been a few times in your life in getting to know your story where they seem like really key inflection points. Being told that you were teachable but mentally retarded, that for sure is something that would define most people, and they would have a hard time escaping that. Being told that you have cancer, that it's stage 4, that they don't know how to treat it, like that's something that consumes most people. How do you build that resilience? So maybe by the time you get to cancer, you've already done so much work, so I get maybe how that one you're protected by the mechanisms you've built, but in the beginning, how did you crawl out from under the labels that people were putting on you?
The easiest thing I've done was to get out from under the labels and to live the life that I live. The most difficult thing I've ever done was to believe that I can do it.
What's the difference?
The difference is that when you don't know what's impacting you, and it's something that's holding you down and you're not aware of it. The great anthropologist Margaret Mead was in a restaurant in London, and a guy was serving her and said, "There's several Americans here tonight." And she said, "Is that right?" "Yeah." So let me know when you serve them dessert. I'll tell you exactly how many are here. He said, "Oh, you couldn't possibly." And so he came back and said, "Okay, I've done it." And she got up and she walked around and she came back and she said, "There are around 25 here." And he looked at the roster. "How did you know that?" Say, "In America, we eat differently from you when we eat a dessert. You eat it from the crust toward the tip. We eat it from the tip toward the crust. When you eat a slice of pie, how do you eat yours?"
Definitely, yeah, from the tip back to the crust, for sure.
Yeah, okay, and so there are things that when you, in my situation, when you live in a dominant culture that is designed to destroy your sense of self and your belief in yourself, and you have to learn ways in which you can begin to connect with this power that you have within yourself to handle where you are. The key is to be constantly in a perpetual process of discovering the truth of who you are and fighting constantly to look for ways in which you can escape the inner conversation. I speak to audiences around the world, and I train speakers as well, and I tell them that when you speak, that there's an objective that you want to achieve when you speak to an audience, because how people live their lives is a result of the story they believe about themselves. So you as a speaker, when you speak in this program, when people see you, what you do is distract, dispute, and inspire. You distract people from their current story with your guests and the questions that you ask. Through the process of the ongoing questioning and the way in which they respond and the things they have learned, you dismantle their current belief system and inspire them to create a new chapter with their lives. And so, but that's an ongoing process of constantly interrupting that conversation, what psychologists call your self-explanatory style, because life is going to beat up on you in so many ways, and many things, they come back, negative thoughts and how you feel about yourself, they don't die. They come back once you stop doing the maintenance work on your mind, listening to motivational messages, going to seminars and workshops, spending time quietly listening to the still small voice within. Who am I really? Is this really me? Am I giving my best? Am I just reflecting what's around me? Because all of these various things affect how we show up in life. And so having a strategy to continuously find ourselves reaching higher. Robert Schuller had a book, it's not very popular, but I loved it. It's called Peak to Peak, U-P-E-A-K to P-E-E-K, because you're constantly reaching higher to find out and discover your better self.
Now here's one second to the last thing. Let us say together, you gotta be hungry. Hold this one, hold it. Mr. Washington, Mr. Brown, what do you want to do? Well, sir, I'd like to be a disc jockey. Mr. Brown, if you want to be a disc jockey, you got to be hungry. What do you mean by that, sir? You've got to be willing to do the things that others won't do in order to have the things tomorrow others won't have. He said you got to work on yourself, develop your mind. You don't get in life what you want, you get in life what you are. Always strive to get on top in life, because it's the bottom that's overcrowded. You got to be hungry. I said, yes, sir, I'm hungry. I want to be a disc jockey, sir. He said, is that right? I said, yes, sir. He said, start listening to Paul Harvey. Start listening to people who are effective communicators. Be conscious of what you're saying and how you're saying it. Because how you express yourself, once you open your mouth, you tell the world who you are. See yourself as a radio disc jockey. Start working to get sponsorship. Start creating the radio format that you want. Start developing your personality. I said, wait a minute, sir. I said, I want to be a disc jockey. I don't have a job yet. And then he quoted Whitney Young. He said, it's better to be prepared for an opportunity and not have one than to have an opportunity and not be prepared. You got to be hungry. So I started working to develop myself and developing my communication skills. I expected to have a radio program, so I created my formats. I started learning how to write commercials and do jingles. And then I came to him one day. I said, okay, Mr. Washington. He said, okay, Mr. Brown, remember, you've got to be hungry. You don't have a college degree. You have no journalism. You have no broadcasting. This is a very crowded field. It's very, very competitive, Mr. Brown. You're going to face no and rejection every day. But if you're hungry enough, the world will make a place for you. So I went to apply for a job on Miami Beach to Milton Butterball Smith, the program director. Hello, Mr. Butterball. How are you, sir? My name is Les Brown, sir. I like to be a disc jockey. You have any journalism in your background? No, sir. You have any kind of broadcasting experience? No, sir, but I've been training myself, sir. Let me audition for you. Let me show you how good I am. He said, I'm sorry, we don't have any job for you. I was discouraged. I went back and I told Mr. Washington. I said, Mr. Washington? They said, no. He said, don't take it personally. Most people are so negative, they have to say no 7 times before they say yes. He said, you got to be hungry. Go back again. I said, yes, sir. Hello, Mr. Butterball. How are you, sir? My name is Les Brown, sir. I like to be a disc jockey. Weren't you here yesterday? Yes, sir. Didn't I tell you no yesterday? Yes, sir. Then why are you back today? Well, sir, I didn't know whether or not somebody was laid off or somebody was fired, sir. No one was laid off. No one was fired. I came back the next day. Hello, Mr. Butterball. How are you, sir? My name is Les Brown, sir. I'd like to be a disc jockey. I know what your name is. Weren't you here the last 3 days? Yes, sir. Didn't I tell you no the last 3 days? Yes, sir. Then why are you back today? Well, sir, I didn't know whether or not someone got sick or someone died, sir. No one got sick, no one died, no one was laid off or fired. Now, don't you come back here again. I came back the next day talking loud, looking happy, like I was seeing you for the first time. Hello, Mr. Butterball, how are you? He looked at me with rage. He says, go get me some coffee. I said, yes, sir. Sometimes you have to stoop before you conquer. You got to sacrifice before you reign. So I became the errand boy for the disc jockeys. I'll go get their lunch and their dinner, and I stand in the control room, and I would not leave until they would ask me to. Then pretty soon, they trusted me to pick up entertainers that came to town. Entertainers like Diana Ross and the Supremes and the Four Tops and Gladys Knight. I used to drive them all over Miami Beach in the disc jockeys' big long Cadillacs. I didn't have any driver's license, but I was driving like I had some. Then one day, I was at the radio station, and a disc jockey by the name of Rockin' Roger was drinking while he was on the air. He was slurring his words. It was obvious he was so inebriated he couldn't complete his show. And there I was looking at him through the control room window, walking back and forth, young, ready, and hungry. I was saying, drink, rock, drink. Drink, rock. I'd have gone to get him some more if he'd asked me to. Then pretty soon the phone rang. It was the general manager, and I answered the phone. I said, hello? He said, young boy, this is Mr. Klein. I said, I know. He said, Rock can't finish his program. I said, I know. He said, would you call one of the other DJs in? I said, yes, sir. I hung the phone up. I said, now he must think I'm crazy. I called my mama and my girlfriend Cassandra. Said, y'all come out on the front porch and turn up the radio. I'm about to come on air. I waited for about 20 minutes and I called him back. I said, Mr. Klein, I can't find nobody. He said, young boy, do you know how to work the controls? I said, yes, sir. He said, go in there and segue the records and don't say nothing here. I said, yes, sir. I couldn't wait to get behind that turntable. I put on a fast record. I said, look out, this is me, LB, Triple P, Les Brown, your platter playing papa. There were none before me and there will be none after me. Therefore, that makes me the one and only. Young and single, love Domingo, certified, bona fide, indubitably qualified to bring you satisfaction and a whole lot of action. Look out, baby, I'm your love man. I was hungry. I was hungry. Shake somebody's hand on your right and left and say, you gotta be hungry. There are people who come to this country who can't speak the language and they hit the ground running because they're hungry. The people that are hungry are willing to do the things today others won't do in order to have the things tomorrow others won't have. The people that are hungry are willing to make it okay to fail. They're risk takers. The people that are hungry are willing to reinvent themselves, to develop themselves. They know you don't get in life what you want, you get in life what you are. The people that are hungry have goals and practical steps that they engage in and day out.
So life is full of distractions. And so I want you to think about what are your goals and what is it that you see for yourself in and out of the pandemic. You just saw a video. Here I am, 77 just a few months ago, about 3 months ago, I connected with my birth family. And to see a picture for the first time of my birth mother and father. This thing called life, it's just so unpredictable. And so that in the middle of all the stuff that we have to do, and the things that you have to do in terms of your personal stuff, in terms of your business and the people that's a part of your team, and all of the unexpected distractions that we just don't see coming. This is a very challenging time. And what we have to do and know is, first of all, we have to have a program for ourselves to handle what's going on. And I want you to write this down. When things go wrong, don't go with them, because they're going to go wrong. That's going to happen. And so having a strategy, a game plan, a ritual to train your mind to observe things and not buy into the things that you see, that's major now more than ever. This is no time to lose it. And so when we look at all the conflict and all the things, the confusions and the violence and the spike in suicide and politicians lying out of their necks every day and say, don't believe your lying eyes. You say, come on. This is a different kind of place. And so this is a time that you have to begin to focus on you. This lady, she was working in hospice and she was interviewing patients who just had a few weeks to live, about 2 months to 3 months, and she asked them, what do you regret about your life? And the majority of them said that I wasn't true to myself, that I wish that I had done the things that had been true to me. It's been said that most people die unlived lives. They die a life that's not them. And so I started examining, where am I now and what am I to do with what I'm going through, just with one of my children who's bipolar schizophrenic. How do I handle that? I call FAF and say, hey, I need some help. Do you know anybody that can help me? Because here I am, can motivate people around the world, and my son, look like I made him by myself, can't hear my voice. So that's very challenging, and it's very humbling. So part of what I want to share with you, develop a ritual for you. I'm the fix-it person, but I had to begin to anchor myself in the words, Lord, grant me the serenity to accept the things that I can't change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And if that wasn't enough, I'm at Cancer Centers of America last week, and they said, Mr. Brown, we know we gave you the Perseverance Award for 29-year prostate cancer conqueror, but we see something here, because I just said, let me just check myself out and see how things are going. And they said, your white blood cells are low. We've not seen this. And I remember reading a book called Who's the Matter with Me? And what I realized, that the shift that has taken place in my health that I'm now proactively dealing with, it is a result of stress, that I was allowing the stress, dealing with my son, dealing with the business and all my children, and all of the things that I just have to deal with, no, excuse me, not have to deal with, that I get to deal with. I want you to write this down. Operation Clean Slate. Come on, somebody. Well, I'm coming for you right now. I started saying, wait a minute. A lot of stuff that I had on my plate, it wasn't my stuff. And so I decided Operation Clean Slate. I started getting stuff off my plate, my children, my brothers and my sisters and friends. My mother had a sign, my adopted mother had a sign on her mirror, and it read, oh Lord, help me keep my nose out of other people's business. Now I understand. I want you to write this down. We live our lives forward, but we understand it looking backwards. Now I understand what Mama meant, because I was putting my nose in a lot of business that was not my business. Operation Clean Slate. So you have to sometimes stop, look, and make an assessment and ask the question, what am I to do with this? Where am I going? What's going on with me? Who am I really? Who have I been being? And I have been being Superman or Mighty Mouse. Here I come to save the day. It's Mighty Mouse. He's on his way. I said, no, I resign. I can't even call Superman to help me out. You know why? Because they eliminated the telephone booths. He can't even change clothes. I told him not to remove those telephone booths. He's not gonna risk being arrested for indecent exposure, taking off his clothes in a telephone booth. Now that's not an option. So, so here we are. And we have to deal with this stuff. And so number one, you gotta be true to yourself. You gotta have a ritual to take care of yourself. And you know this. And it's very important. And sometimes we need to be reminded of what we know. I'm getting still, and I'm reading the Bible, the Torah, the Kabbalah, the Holy Quran. I'm reading everything when they said, Mr. Brown, your PSA, which stands for prostate specific antigen 2,400. Wow. And I say, whoa. But guess what? I got it down. I got it down to below 0. Then it went up to 4. And so I'm working on it again. But what I know is I'm minimizing the stress in my life that I brought into my life. I take responsibility for where I am and this situation. That's an opportunity to prove my discipline and my commitment of making choices that I would be here, and at 77, making the rest of my life the best of my life. And I know that many of you have decided in this mastermind, that's where you are. And because we can't do it by ourselves. And so building mental resolve. I get up early in the morning, listening to things to fortify me, to begin to strengthen myself mentally and emotionally and spiritually. Here's something else. As you begin to dig in and start thinking your life, rethinking it and looking at yourself, why is that important? Because this is a new space that requires a new skill set. Einstein said, the thinking that has brought me this far has created some problems that this thinking can't solve. And so Les Brown had to say to himself, hey, look here, if you do the same thing that got you here, that won't serve you in this new space where we are. So self-awareness is very important. Am I being me? Am I being true to myself? Am I doing the things that I need to do to keep myself on the path to do the things that as I go forward where I am an asset to my family and not a liability? Here's something else. Whatever your goal and dream is, I can share with you based upon my experience, it's possible and it's necessary. You got to decide, I'm going to do this, I'm going to make this happen. But not just that, but also who you have to be in order to do that. Because at the end of the day, and you know this, being with Fab, that people don't live life as it is. You live life as you are. If you're not playing with a full deck, if you are not getting a full night's sleep, if you don't have the clarity of mind to make good decisions that will serve you and your team and your family, that's going to be challenging. You become a liability. As Jim Rohn said, is your life a warning or is it an example? A warning of not to do or an example of what to do? So taking care of yourself. And I want you to write this down. Live your life, and this is where I am. And I really want you to put this someplace that you can see it. Live your life the way that you want to lead your life. I was talking to a room of entrepreneurs, and I asked them, if you knew you had just a few weeks to live, what would you do differently? And I was surprised that the majority said, I would quit my business, and they start thinking about things that they were going to do. And here's what was fascinating. There's a young lady in there named Pauline Ahi. Pauline was born with no arms and no legs. And so as I was passing her table in this training I was doing, someone said, did you hear what Les said? Write down the things that you would do differently if you knew you just had a few weeks to live. She said, yes, I heard him. And what most of them did at the table, they talked about quitting their business and start traveling and just doing a variety of things. And what she said, I would continue to be me. And when they heard her say that, these people who had written out all the things that they had taken on and all the things that they said that they would step away from, they begin to rethink themselves. And I asked also the second follow-up question, what are the biggest challenges that you're facing right now? Pauline did not have one thing on her paper. No arms, no legs, married with children. And they asked, you gotta have some problem. You don't have no arms. You don't have no legs. That's gotta be very challenging. He said, I don't have no challenge. I find a way to live life on my terms. Whoa. That's major. She said, I've set my life up, my environment, the people in my life, the things that I'm doing. There's nothing that I'm doing that's outside of what I want to do. I'm doing the stuff that's me. I'm being true to me. That's some lesson in that. See, if I knew I had a few weeks to live, I'd do more Zooms and give more motivational speeches. I told my kids that they tell you I'm dead, don't let them embalm me for 3 days. Sneak in there and put a microphone in my head and my hand in the morgue. And if I don't grab it and say, you gotta be hungry, you call your brothers and sisters and say, Dad's gone. Yeah, and if my casket give me a microphone or some Colonel Sanders chicken, I'll be fine. This thing called life. So just determining who are you now and who is it you need to be for this vision that you see of yourself, because life is very challenging. It's sometimes up, sometimes down. Sometimes things go well, and sometimes they don't go so well. It's a roller coaster. And so be true to you and decide the things that you envision for yourself, the reason that you're there, the goals that you've set, the relationships that you're building. Make sure that it represents who you are and the things that you envision. You got to have a mindset that I'm going to do this, just like we got started out. Some stuff happened. It's called life. Think it not strange that you're faced the fiery furnaces of this world. You will, not you might. You will have tribulations. Here's something else. Determine what is it that you really want. That's major. What do I really want? And when I started practicing, and I got this from a friend of mine, business partner, Celeste Johnson, Operation Clean Slate, I took a lot of things off my plate, and I'm focusing on doing those things that's in my heart. Where your heart is, there your treasure is also. Spending more time with my children and my grandchildren and my 4 great-grandsons. And so when you look at the things that you want, creating special moments. It's been said it's not the number of breaths that you take, but the number of breaths that takes, the number of moments that you create that takes your breath away. And that's what I'm looking at and focusing on. I remember when I read this article about Howard Hughes, who at that time was the wealthiest man in the world, and they were trying to rush him someplace on an airplane, and he died. And someone asked the question, how much did he leave? And somebody answered, all of it. And so when we look at ourselves, we got to ask, what's really important? Making a decision, and this time that you're there to rethink your life. What's necessary for you that you want to do before you check out? I remember being at Caesar's Palace, and Frank Sinatra was at a table seated next to me, and at that time I was married to Gladys Knight. I was the conductor of the midnight train. Come on now. I wasn't one of the pips, I was the conductor. Come on. And I heard him say to a young man, live each day as if it were your last, because one day it will be. And so, and I want you to write this down. And this is a biggie for me right now. A friend of mine, Samantha, and I said, how you doing? And she sounded so bubbly and so happy. I say, what's going on with you? Why are you so bubbly and happy? And I haven't seen you in a minute. She said, well, the reason I am, and I'm like this every day. And I said, why? She said, this is a non-refundable day. Whoa. I don't have time to be depressed and stressed out. It's non-refundable. I'm going to make the best of it. I hear you talking about making the rest of your life the best of your life. She said, that's real, because each moment, each day is non-refundable. I reminded myself that every hour, the time that I invest, the conversations that I have. I won't take a phone call unless it's positive, unless it's purposeful, unless it's productive, unless it's going in the direction of where I'm going. I'm not just going to give my time away. I'm 77. No, homie ain't playing that. I'm going to leave my life the way I wanted to do something more meaningful and make a greater impact. I still have some more in me. Simba, you're more than that which you have become. I still believe, and I'm sure some of you believe, that you still have some more in you, that the best is yet to come. Here's something else. Your why, what has driven me and caused me to become the person that I am, was I wanted to take care of my adopted mother. You know, my birth mother, she gave me life, but my adopted mother, she taught me how to live life. I feel like Abraham Lincoln has said, all that I am and all that I ever hope to be, I owe to my mother. And Mama, she was always engaged in life. She was always looking for ways that she could do something differently. It was not unusual for us to come home and Mama, as small as our house was, that she had reconfigured the furniture in the house. And I remember one time coming home and there was a big window in the living room leaning up against the wall. And I said, Mama, why do you have this window here? Well, they tore this house down and you say you're gonna get me a home. Well, I got this window, so if you're gonna build me a home, I got a window that could fit. I said, no, man, I'm not gonna buy a home that don't have windows in every room. Come on. And she most certainly accelerated me to getting the home that I promised her that I would get for her. But she had the vision saying, I'm going to participate in this and what you're going to do. I'm going to do my part. And so what reason you're here, you've decided, hey, I got I got something else I want to do. You've got some bigger goals that you want to achieve. And write this down. Life begins at the end of your comfort zone. I got 3 brothers, 2 that I didn't know. And they look at me and say, whoa, how is it possible? You're just like our birth mother, and you didn't know her. And our grandmother, and you didn't know either one, didn't see them. How is it possible? You're just like them. And the reason is, one, they didn't have any goals beyond their comfort zone, and still don't. And they're fine with that. And that's okay. And the other thing is that people say, well, it's in your genes. No. I remember spending a whole day with Maya Angelou, and Maya Angelou said, it aggravates me when people say I'm a natural communicator. She said, show me a natural heart surgeon. She said, no, I'm trained. And so if they put in the effort and the time like you're doing to get training and upgrade my knowledge, my relationships, expand my vision and dreams, I would be living just a non-consequential life. I didn't want that. The reason you're there, that you want to make a greater impact with your business, with the people that you're working with, to bring out the best in them, but also be the model, not just the messenger, but the message that you want to bring out the best in yourself, to challenge yourself. Iron sharpening iron. That's why you're there, creating collaborative, achievement-driven, supportive relationships. That's why you're there. You know there's something in you that says, this is not just it for me. There is more for me. People can be distracted by what's going on in Ukraine, by what's going on with the virus. But as for me, I know that this is my life right now. There is no duplicate, and I want to maximize it. Give yourselves a round of applause for reaching for your greatness. Do that right now.